Howdy partners, it's Ricky Cicchini, the VP of Product here at Cloud Radio. With the release of the new role assignments feature, there was a couple of really interesting use cases that we're covering in these videos. In this video specifically, we're going to be taking a look at how to set up an account manager with access to limited companies, but a lot of power for flexible management capabilities with minimal security risk. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are in Cloud Radio, and we are working with the use case that we want to set up an account manager with limited access to specific companies in our tenant. We want them to be able to get in there, modify some content, maybe even add a new company or two inside of our tenant as a whole with a limited permission subset. We don't want every single permission open to these account managers so they can change our tenant settings, but we do want them to have some control over companies. As per usual, we're going to pick a guinea pig and watch them, how they change before and after as we make these role changes, and then we're going to stick to our top 3 steps in our process, which is creating a role, assigning the role, and then verifying the role works the way we want. So I'll start off by going to usage and users within my test company, Azure Technology. We're going to pick our theoretical account manager here. I'm going to use Russell Johnson. Russell, clicking on him, clicking on the role assignments tab, I can already verify he's just a basic user. When I impersonate him, we'll see that he just has the limited feature set view, not much else. Can't jump into other companies, so we need to beef up his access pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to roles and first create the role we want for him. So we're going to go to partner and security, and then we're going to click on the roles tab to start it off. And remember that Cloud Radio's roles are additive, so you can have multiple roles assigned to a person, and it's the most permissive role set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add role. We're going to call it something blatantly obvious, like account manager. Again, it's in your best interest to keep this descriptive, make it super easy to understand, especially if you're managing Cloud Radio with another couple people. Easier for them to understand exactly what this role does and what it's used for. In this case, we don't want this to be the default role. Permissions definitely matter here. In this use case, we don't necessarily need this account manager to be able to impersonate users, but we do need to give the account manager access to impersonate administrators because this is the trigger in which they'll use to jump into those other companies. If you want, if it's applicable to you, you can also give them the ability to impersonate an administrator with all features. The use case for this would be if they need to jump into a company and they need to see features that are probably disabled in the feature set. This usually comes up in instances where, say, they may not have the planner enabled, but you want the account manager to be able to stage the planner, and then you can turn it on at a later time. This is going to let them do that without having to stick to their literal portal. So these two are dependent. You're going to want at least one of these two for this use case, but up to you. Now, again, as an account manager, the only thing they definitely need is they're going to need access to the client's list to be able to jump in. But the level of access that they need in other modules is up to your specific use case. So for the sake of ours, we're going to say that I want this account manager to be able to create and delete companies. We're going to want them to have at least read visibility into the global assessments, read visibility into the planner, read visibility even into, let's say the reports. We don't really need to mess with any of this stuff because, again, they're already a user. So if the permissions they're getting from one role that they have are identical to the others, they don't really do anything. So whether I give him user access or whether I click no access on everything won't really matter because, again, this account manager is getting permissions from the user role. So really what this is saying, if I just give him these partner permissions and the rest of them are no access, he's going to be getting literally just these extra buttons, which is fine by me. And again, hopefully this will make sense when we see it all together. So I'm good with this extra permission set from the role. Let's go ahead and assign it from the role assignments. So we go to our role assignments tab. So we've done our step 1 of 3. We're going to click on add role assignment, and we'll come back to this a couple times during this video because this is where we set the scope. Which clients is this account manager managing? If it's one or more specific clients, you're probably going to want to set the scope to company. So when we set it to company, you can pick the specific companies that this account manager will be able to manage. In our example, let's go ahead and just do Brown Brothers Bottling. And then we're going to be able to select the role. We're going to pick that account manager role. And then we're going to select our specific user. In this case, again, it's our guy, Russell. Now you're going to notice that even though I set the scope to Brown Brothers Bottling, all of our company users show up. Again, remember that this feature and specifically this use case is intended for people in your own partner company managing. You can't set a user in another company to be an account manager to have access to other companies. This feature is specifically to empower users within your organization to multi-manage other companies. So with that being said, let's review these changes. We're picking Russell here. We're basically saying Russell Johnson will have account manager access to Brown Brothers Bottling. I'll submit that. We can see it right here. And then when I refresh the portal here, what I expect to happen is Russell should gain the partner tab, gain that limited view in the partner tab, and he should be able to see only that one client that we gave him access to. So we can see that he indeed has those sub tabs. If I click on, say, the planner, and I want to see what's going on, the gist is that because we gave him access to one client, he's only going to see the reporting actions for that one client, which is nice because that way they can really focus on their subset of assigned clients. When we go to the clients menu, again, Russell will have access to only the one. When he wants to specifically get in there and manage it, he can click on the dots and impersonate an administrator. Off he goes to actually render the management. And when he's in the company, he can go in and do things like create courses or modify tickets or stage the planner like we mentioned before. So for the most part, pretty simple use case here. We're just giving him access to one additional client. Now, for a lot of times, you're probably going to want to give them access to more than one, right? A typical account manager, as far as what we see most of the time, has access to either every client or a subset being more than one. So if it's every single client, let's go through that use case really quickly. I'll delete this old account manager role permission set, this role assignment. If you want an account manager to be able to access and manage all clients, but again, not have full reign over your tenant, the scope type, instead of being a specific company, we're going to set the partner, which is basically just global. So global means that we don't have to pick specific companies. We're saying pick the account manager role, and same thing, we're going to pick the user Russell. And now same exact thing. The difference is that we're saying because he has a global scope, because he has a partner scope, when I refresh this, again, still that limited access to the tenant, but access to all of the clients. So that's another use case. If you wanted to add more individual companies, say I only wanted to do Brown Brothers, Dental Office, and Digital Efforts, all I would do is keep adding role assignments at the company scope level and just keep adding individual companies one by one. That'll accomplish it. For our enterprise companies, let's take a look at a third use case. I'll delete the global one here. You have a third option that can be really helpful to scale things up. When you add a role assignment, enterprise CSA companies get company group as a scope type, which means that you can use your existing company groups to quickly manage your account managers. So if you have people already pre-organized into things like Google companies or medical companies, or even down by account manager region companies, right? Management group A, they can get organized in a subset. I happen to know that this already has 4 companies in it. And again, same thing. I can basically say, hey, somebody will be getting management access to these management group companies. You can also see that there's an option to do it by user group. So in theory, if you set up a user group within your company as well, saying, hey, I want all of my product people to have account management access to group A, it's a little bit more flexible because using groups instead of specifically named companies or global access means you can just put people in the groups and have them inherit permission. So scales a little bit better. Definitely a really, really valuable upgrade for enterprise CSA partners, but not strictly necessary so that everybody else doesn't get to do what they want, right? But in this case, again, we're going to keep it pretty simple. So I'm still just doing a company group. I'm doing it to our management group A. I'm going to give the same thing to Russell. And again, without me having to do global or one by one, we can see that he's going to get a restricted set to just 4 companies here that I've already pre-selected, or 5 companies rather, that I've already pre-selected for the account management group. So in any kind of mix and match fashion, this account manager use case is where you want them to have the access to these companies, limited access elsewhere in your partner tenant, but still have the capability to take care of their clients. And definitely this one, out of all of the examples that we've done in this series, is highly subjective, right? Because you're going to want to be able to give them the access that you think they need to best render management in Cloud Radial. Hopefully this was helpful, and I look forward to you guys trying this out and giving us some feedback. And of course, if you have any questions or need any support, reach out to us and we will be more than happy to help. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.